Let's spin it up. Three, two, one, go.
Brace yourself, it's Jakesmakes. Now, I've always wanted to be an artist, but the problem is I can't draw, I can't paint, I can barely build stuff without making mistakes. One thing I did want to try though is a pendulum paint pattern. You must have seen it online. You get a tin of paint, make a hole in the bottom, attach it to some string, not in that order, and then you let it swing back and forth and it creates a nice little pattern. Okay, so that's a good idea, but it's not very Jakesmakes. We want wacky designs, ideas. We don't just want the bog standard thing that you can look on YouTube and there's hundreds of videos showing this. No. We want something different.
On my last video, you might have seen me review the super precise gyroscope. It's a really cool gyroscope. It's really well engineered. It can spin up to 12,000 RPMs. And one of the best things about it is it comes with an electronic starter. You can get this gyroscope from gyroscope.com. I'll put a link in the description to their website. So if you haven't guessed already, I want to incorporate the gyroscope into the pendulum paint pattern. And here's the plan. With pendulum paint patterns, the shape of the pattern will mostly be affected by the speed and direction from where you throw your pendulum. I'm going to be making two paint patterns, one with the gyroscope spinning and another with it stationary. This way we can compare the two and see any visual effect the spinning gyroscope has on the pattern. So the main issue is that we need to be able to control the initial speed and direction of the pendulum. And that's why I built the rig. The rig is comprised of two electromagnets. The first is designed to hold the gyroscope in place. Once released, this then allows the pendulum to freefall. Obviously, this wouldn't produce a very good pattern on its own. It would just paint a line as the pendulum moves back and forth. We need to introduce a sideways motion so we can get a nice parabolic path which should produce some really interesting patterns. To do this, I'll use a second electromagnet to hold this arm which is under tension from this spring. When I cut power to the electromagnet, it will release the arm which will gently push the gyroscope in a sideways motion. I connected the gyroscope to some steel wire using a crimp, nuts and a bolt. You can purchase accessories for this gyroscope so that you can perform a range of experiments, and these threaded holes are how you connect the accessories. I realised early on that the steel wire might experience twists from the motion of the gyroscope. I had this old bearing lying around, so I quickly put together an enclosure to support it, using some washers and some copper. I'll attach the steel wire to another washer that will rest on top of the bearing, and hopefully this will allow it to rotate. This is a bit of a bodge, I'll admit that. I then attached this to some steel supports in the roof and prepared for the first tests. Well, that was shit. So there's a lot of problems going on here that I need to try and sort. And here's a man who's currently rethinking about his choice of making this YouTube video. Give it up, Jake. Give it up. It's never gonna work. It's gonna be a rubbish video. You left the oven on. But wait a second. What if it works? Anyway, another issue was the metal of the arm was making contact with the gyroscope and not the rubber end. So I cut the arm down as this could damage the gyroscope, and we do not want that. I wanted the pendulum to swing further. To do this, I needed to move the rig further from the centre point, which means the electromagnet holding the gyroscope needed to be higher. I drilled several new holes in case I wanted to alter the height in the future. Now, the steel structure is called unistrut. We use it a lot at work to run cable tray or support any other electrical accessories. It's just really great for this type of thing. It's quite modular, so it can be broken down and reconfigured very quickly. I also upgraded the magnet that was holding the gyroscope, as it kept on falling off a couple of times before I'd cut the power. Next, I decided to create the paint holder. I have an old syringe from the portable soap dispenser video. Oh, I can feel a cameo coming.
Bit of soap for you, sir. How about you, madame? Oh, what about the children? A bit of soap for them? Ha ha ha! Soap for everyone!
Oh, Jesus. Right, that was the portable soap dispenser. Check out the video, the link's in the description. So I modified the syringe with some steel fixing band so that I could attach it to the gyroscope. I'm starting to think that this isn't going to hold much paint. Next came the second tests, which of course were awful, just like the first tests. This meant I had to go back to the drawing board. I did the only thing I could think of at this point, and I bought a 3D printer. After setting up with not much help from my cat, I was able to print a cube. This means I was ready to continue with the video. But wait, no, there's something that I gotta do first. This cooker has been driving me mad for a while. Look, it's time to get a handle on this situation and fire up the 3D printer. A little bit of messing about and I'm done. Success! Okay, so first things first, sorting out this crappy idea. Like seriously, what was I thinking? So I bought a small bearing and designed a bearing holder on a web-based 3D design software called Tinkercad. Tinkercad is a pretty decent place to start if you're new to 3D printing. It's drag and drop, which makes it quite easy to quickly start 3D printing your designs. Well, that is terrifying. I'd probably subscribe if I was you. Or else. The bearing holder will fit right over the steel support in the roof. This will allow the twine string to rotate easily. And that's the other thing I'm going to change. I'm going to use twine as the rope. And of course, would it really be a bearing holder without googly eyes? Once again terrifying, apart from my bearing holder likes to dance. Oh! Sorry, Bernie. Yeah, his name's Bernie the bearing holder, by the way. Shh, there's a good boy, Bernie, there's a good boy. Cue the dramatic string throw, and now it's time to dismantle the rig. Very unfortunate, I've had lots of great memories, but I need its parts. And that is for one reason, and one reason only. Yes, that's right. To build a bigger rig. Bigger rig. Big rig. The big rig is basically a bigger version of the rig, with a slight difference. It has no arms to push the gyroscope. Instead, the second electromagnet will hold a metal support further up the twine. The first magnet will be switched off, allowing the gyroscope to freefall in this direction. Then shortly afterwards, the second magnet will be switched off, allowing the gyroscope to freefall towards the centre of the pendulum. The resulting vector should allow the gyroscope to take a nice curved path around the centre point. Now, if I want to repeat the results with the gyroscope spinning and not spinning, I need to be able to control the time in between the release of each electromagnet. To do this, I built a variable time delay relay release device. Okay, that name isn't going to win any awards, so let's just shorten it to release device. So I've got some little LEDs here to demonstrate the power that will supply the electromagnets. The release device will work, so when I push the button, it will cut power to the first electromagnet, wait a certain amount of time, and then cut power to the second electromagnet. I can change the amount of time on this delay using the potentiometer, and also view what the actual time in milliseconds is by hooking it up to my laptop and using the serial plotter. And this is another reason why this video is taking me so long. You know, I don't claim to be amazing at programming and whatnot, so this has taken me a bit of time to figure out. And also, you may have noticed there's sort of half a 3D printed case that's attached to the Arduino. So I tried several times to make a 3D printed case, which would have been really good, but there was just so many issues that it was taking too long, so I stopped. And to finish the video, I'm just going to keep the release device and the breadboard, just to make things a bit more simpler. I also got rid of the syringe as the paint holder because, once again, a terrible idea. I mean, that wouldn't have held much paint. So I've changed it for this water bowl, and in fact I'll actually change it for a bigger water bottle in the future because even this one's a bit small. So the next tests were a massive improvement from the previous rig, and you can really start to see that curved path of the pendulum. One of the other obvious issues is the metal support. Apart from almost hitting me in the head, it just keeps swinging back and forth as soon as it's released. This is then obviously causing the pendulum to swing back and forth, so we need to sort this out. And to do that, I'm going to bring back the arm. Yes! But of course, then I started to think, actually, this is a really bad design. So, introducing the new and improved arm.
Ooh! Oh my god.
So this is a way better design. I've taken it away from the main structure of the big rig. This also has the added benefit of being able to be removed easily. I can work on it, I can modify it, and then I can just put it straight back on. It also means that I don't have to use all these holes that I've drilled on the side for the spring. It's all just one unit. I also fitted an off stand to the other electromagnet, and then I installed a piece of uni strip going diagonally just to give it some more support. I changed the bottle for a bigger bottle, as I said previously, and I also wrapped it in wire. And this was just to give it a bit of support, you know, because when I fill it up with paint, it's going to get quite heavy. That's of course as long as I can actually get the paint inside the bottle and not spill it all over the floor. I've added water to the bottle this time so that it can simulate the weight of the paint. So I performed some tests and I'm really happy. There's a bit of movement in it, a bit of swinging back and forth, but I think that's just going to be adjusting the potentiometer, adjusting the time difference in between the release of each electromagnet, so I can find that sweet spot. That's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for that sweet spot where the wobble is reduced to a minimal amount. And one final thing I wanted to do was attach the idiot button to the rig, as I'm going to use this button to release the electromagnets. No, not another cameo.
The person who pressed this button has gained 20 idiot points.
I made the idiot button on one of my previous videos. I'll leave a link in the description so you can check it out. Next, I chose the paint, and I've gone for Shizuoka. 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 Shizuka.
Shizuka! 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 Shizuka!
Shizuka.
Oh my god. That is so bright.
I suppose it dries a bit darker. Also, can we just take a moment to appreciate the amazing sound that this paint lid made when it opened? Oh yeah, that's the good stuff. Next, I drilled a hole in the bottle lid. I'll use some duct tape to, Ooh, hang on a second, I got an idea.
God.
So I poured some of the paint into a measuring jug and attempted to use the funnel to get the paint into the bottle. But it was way too thick. Like seriously thick. So I poured some water in the measuring jug and I gave it a mix. This is a 50-50 mix, so it's 400 millilitres of water and 400 millilitres of paint. Now this works so much better. It's definitely a lot less viscous. Next, I wanted to test to see how long it would take for this 800 millilitres to drain out of the bottle.
2, 1, boom.
So the 800 millilitres took about 2 minutes and 30 seconds. This works out roughly, and these are rough measurements by the way, 5.33 millilitres per second. So I'm going to aim for around 1200 millilitres. It's a 1500 millilitre bottle, but I don't want to overdo it because it will get quite heavy. So if I divide this by 5.33, this gives us 225 seconds, which works out to be 3 minutes and 45 seconds. I'm just going to round this down a little bit. I think I'm just going to choose 3 minutes and 30 seconds to end the paint pattern. I realised I was going to need some help with this. So Charlie, put down the Hoover. Introducing the Apprentice. And ladies, he's single. So the canvas I'm going to use is a dust sheet from Screwfix. It's quite big, so we cut it in half. And then we hung them both up. So after I've done both the paint patterns, I'm going to hang them up like this so we can compare the two. We laid the first canvas out on the floor roughly where I thought the paint pattern might end up. And then we filled up the bottle with paint and prepared for the first paint pattern.
Right, okay, here we go. 3, 2, 1. Oh, Jesus. Little bit on the floor there.
So generally, this paint pattern actually worked really well. The wobble sorted itself out after about 3 rotations round, and then you've just got this clear, nice, crisp paint pattern. Obviously, completely misjudged where the paint was going to fall and got quite a bit on the floor. But, you know, the majority of it's on the canvas, so it's not the end of the world. Another thing that I didn't really account for was how wet the paint is going to be. For some strange reason, I just assumed I was going to be able to hang it up straight away and do the next one. But no, it was absolutely soaking. So we did our best to have a little clean up. And then we're going to leave the paint pattern until it's completely dry. And we'll come back, hang it up and do the next one. Okay, so the paint pattern's fully dry. You can see it's definitely dried a bit darker as expected. So we hung it up and we had to keep it quite flat. You see, the paint was quite thick in some places and it started to crack a little bit. So if we would have scrunched the painting up, then the paint could have flaked off, which wouldn't have been great. With no time to waste, we got the blank canvas and laid it on the floor, mixed up some more paint and prepared for the next paint pattern. So Charlie's going to spin up the gyroscope, and as soon as it's reached its maximum speed, he's going to pull it away and then pull the tape, and we're going to press the button and watch the paint pattern form.
Okay. Let's spin it up.
Listen how cool the gyroscope sounds whilst it's reaching full speed.
Okay, looking good. One. Okay. 3, 2, 1, go.
And finally, 14 months after I started this video, the Gyroscopic Pendulum Paint Pattern is alive! And, of course, you might be thinking, actually, it looks exactly like the other pattern. But wait! Just at this point, something different happens. Something changes that gives it a different pattern to the first one. We came back a couple of weeks later when it had dried and we hung it up. And you can clearly see they are two different patterns, two complete different patterns. I'll show the path here of the first pattern without the gyroscope spinning, here in red. You can see here the pattern rotates anti-clockwise and just continues a steady rotation whilst it shrinks. This is quite a typical common pendulum paint pattern. Now with the second pattern, with the gyroscope spinning, it starts off really similar, and it actually got me a little bit worried at first. But actually, at this point, it stops rotating anti-clockwise. And then it starts rotating clockwise. It actually does something different. And that's what gives us this really interesting pattern. Here it is again, in case you missed it. You can see it's rotating, it slows down, and then here it just begins to start rotating clockwise. I've overlapped the patterns here so you can see the difference. So the pattern with the gyroscope spinning, straight from the beginning, is a lot shorter, which kind of worked out well because it means I didn't get as much paint on the floor. I ran the patterns for exactly the same amount of time, and you can see here that at the end, the pattern with the gyroscope spinning is smaller. It's almost as though the gyroscope has stolen some of the momentum, some of the kinetic energy from the pendulum. I've absolutely no idea why this is happening, but the gyroscope spinning is giving us this completely different pattern. Hey, it's finally done. Oh, I'm so glad how this one turned out. It's been a crazy 14 months. You know, there's been a lot of dodgy haircuts and, well, stressful moments, but I got through it. If you really like this video and you want to see more of my videos, I'm choking up because I can't speak. Let's try that again.
Actually, Jake, you didn't record that part again. You just started rambling about something unrelated. But you get the gist. If you like this video, hit the subscribe, and I'll see you next time.